Hello world, hello Zion, it's Prince Easy coming at you again. As usual, I do have a couple slides that I wanna share with you, and we're gonna talk about them, right? So, let's get to it. Suppose this is supposed to be a hospital. I'm just guessing, right? Well, you might ask yourself, what is this? Well, this is, as usual, right? The things that are coming out today. Right? This was in the making a long time ago, apparently, right? And the Western peoples in power planned this whole ordeal, this bloodbath, so to speak. Who is complicit? Again, just like everything else, stuff will come out, right? But apparently, it was drawn up in 1957, that is, by the CIA, apparently. So I covered this whole scandal here, and this is how it is resolved. Where do you think he escaped to? Where is it that all of these type of people literally find refuge? Where is that one place? For the sake of documenting, right? These are the people that we're up against, and these are the people that, right, for whatever reason, Trump chooses to side with, right? These are the people that he empowers. This is where we are. And when time comes to take responsibility for this disaster, that again was engineered for a long, long, long time ago, since when the Brits ruled the world, right? Just for documenting. And the things I've heard happening over there with Gobekli Tepe, right? So these geniuses, because they want to suppress and hide history, I think I covered this, but for the sake of not my memory not being accurate, I'll do it again. So there's a big scandal going on at this site here called Gobekli Tepe. It is in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. Turkey. Right? And these geniuses thought it was a great idea to plant trees that are protected by the law of the land on the historical site, making it impossible for excavation in the near future. That's unless the laws change. But again, this is just, we have seen this before. It is happening even in Egypt, right? There's a specialist over there in Turkey, and there's also a specialist on Egyptology. And all of them, it's not their history. That's the truth. And that's what the world has been running away from for all this time. And I just say, people need to stop at one point. They need to stop and take ownership, right? Because that is part of the reorientation of this world, acknowledging history and what happened. Because what happened, as we see now, it defines the politics of today, right? And if we remain hypocritical, then nothing will get solved. That's just my opinion, right? That's just my assessment, okay? So what is it? Were you keeping it safe? Was that, I remember this There was a sacking. It was a sacking, right? It was a sacking that led to these documents ending up where they ended up, just like the rest of the African artifacts that are not in Africa, right? That's not even the economic aspect, right? Because museums are making hand money and they are not sharing this money whatsoever, right? They're keeping it safe. This is long overdue. Right? This is long overdue, and just as usual, we'll start with the basics, right? Food, housing, clothing. India is far behind. Right? The images that are coming out of India, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, about a couple weeks back, right? So there was this Irish influencer. He wears the traditional Irish costumes, and he has bagpipes, and he was walking around. He was walking around India, being racist as hell, all loud and proud, basically just calling for the recolonization of India. And he says they're backwards and all of this, right? Well, for all the things that we hear, all the learned people of India, right? India is not where it's supposed to be. Right? It's not where it's supposed to be. That's the truth, right? Not that it needs to be recolonized by the kingdom, right? That's so. Let's switch up some gears. So as usual, they do these studies. Right? You don't have to take them for what they are as being factual, but again, they're just studies, right? In the red, it says, a study shows rapid emotional changes increase vulnerability to persuasive messaging by nearly 48%, especially when delivered by perceived authority figures, right? So this guy, right? I don't expect you to know him, but he is a big deal in the occults, right? So he created this supposed technique, right? He created this supposed technique upon one factual, I don't know, situation, right? People run on beliefs, attitudes, and behavioral scripts, so he says, right? And this leads to people basically operating on an automatic basis, right? Or rather, I don't think it, I think it's appropriate by terms of implying, right? Impulsive, right? Impulsive, right? Or instinctual and whatnot, right? It's all the same. So understanding this compound here, I think, is the key to a lot of because honestly, this has been the center of attack, the center of attack, and how they gain leverage, so to speak, right? It's why people have short attention spans. It's the reason for addiction. Basically, I can go on and on and on, right? So basically, covers the same things that we were talking about, right? The observations that I made videos about, right? Basically, they have a belief which is true to some extent, right? It works for a short time, right? Because it's a trick, right? That they either appease your emotions or your intellect, one or the two, right? One or the two. They give you fake intellectuals and they give you spiritual gurus, right? That give you emotional roller coaster rides, right? Because that's what they do, you know? That's what they do. Right? That's what cults do. That ties into the stick and carrot, so to speak, right? Stick and carrot analogy. Is it the correct? I think it is. I'm not sure, right? So we have the emotions and the intellect, all important, and all should have a fair vote when it comes to decision making. And if one is denied, then something goes really, really wrong every time. So their approach is to cause this war, right? Within people and then people within people, right? So if I take a logical approach and you take an emotional approach, then collision. We are in a collision course at that particular moment, right? But it all started in one's brain, right? One brain was made vulnerable to manipulation, right? And these people, they're good, right? They're good at what they do. That's a fact, right? They're good at manipulating the masses, right? And that cannot be understated or not recognized, right? It has to be recognized, right? So I don't think it's a good idea for me to explain here how it works, but basically I just need people to be like aware, right? It's not about, I'm not going to teach the techniques here, right? Because these things can be dangerous, right? But at one point people have to operate on a manual mode, so to speak, right? And what I say manual mode is we should stop being operating in the automatic mode, right? What is automatic mode, right? Being vulnerable to suggestions, or rather being susceptible to suggestive situations, right? Just because we are high on emotions, or I don't know, trying to figure out a certain concept using our brains, right? But our forefathers knew better, right? They said, you know, do not make a very important decision while you are emotional. It was sane advice, because this imbalance of these two members, which share a common space, most importantly, they share a common space, right? They share a common space and they feed on each other, right? How does intellect know when it's doing too much or going overboard? It's the emotion. How does the emotion know that it is going overboard? When there's complete loss of intellect, right? That's when that's when emotion figures out, like, yo, okay, I might have gone overboard here, right? So this is how it works, right? So do not let these people not necessarily create conflict between one or two people. That happens, right? There are frictions, right? But most importantly is to have control over everything, right? The important elements of your life, right? When you say, okay, these people, I need to go to war with them, right? You have to have a sheer balance, right? Between the two members, or else you have lost that whole war. You have, right? So do not ignore emotion and embrace intellect, nor embrace intellect and ignore emotion, right? That's a very dangerous state. Anyway, that's just my opinion, right? That's just my opinion, but that's just the real situation of the matter. Right? Again, just observation, right? What they call it, what do they call it? Alice in Wonderland technique, all right? If you have a processing mind, if you can read between the lines, so to speak, I suggested a movie over and over, over and over, over and over. That simple movie is called The Portable Doll, right? The Portable Doll. It's about a boy and a girl and a towel. Just giving you a clue so as you cannot confuse the movie, right? So if a towel is not involved, then it's not the right movie. Okay, The Portable Doll. This will show you how deep and how, I don't know, scientific, right? That's their shortcoming, right? They are all scientific. They analyze, they use AI to analyze and collect data and all of this. But again, they're falling for their own, right? They're tickling themselves, right? Without knowing, right? They can't strike a balance, right, between the two members. Hence, we have chaos, right? They are looking for control, right? And they think whatever they're doing with manipulation and all of that gives them that, right? But again, as they say, you can lie to some people sometime, but not all the time, right? It's important to never forget this, right? Word. So there's gonna be a, I don't know, tantrum's gonna be thrown, again, emotions are gonna be thrown around, right? And of course, those who plant discourse will also come into play, right? This has nothing to do with America. America could go over into India and make business deals, can go into China and make business deals, can go into Russia and make business deals. Full stop, right? Not try to use the same old stupid book that has gotten us into trouble, right? Where they use guns for diplomacy, right? We are gonna give you these and these weapons, but you cannot this and this, right? We're gonna, like, the colonial mindset, right? The colonial mindset, right? You're always going to the deal and thinking like, okay, we are in a superior position right now, right? We are in a superior position now. We are making a deal from a superior position, right? That's not gonna work, right? Not anymore. This is my advice to the Americans, right? There are some people like they are so idiotic, right, in their approaches, right? They are so idiotic in their approaches. Right? But anyway, who am I? I hope you saw this ad. right? Tulsi out here kicking ass and taking names, right? This is what you should have been doing, right? Revoking access and putting a squeeze on them in whatever ways that are accessible to you. But anyway, um, let me not go on for long. Right, I'm gonna put a pin on it right there. Prince Easy signing out. Love you. Bye.